SportsLit is co-founded and co-hosted by Neil Acharya and Nate Sager. Technical producer and engineer, Michael Ella. Executive producer, Neil Acharya. Today's host is Nate Sager.
Welcome to SportsLit. I am Nathan Sager. Today, comedian Dave Hill joins our show to discuss his fourth book, The Awesome Game, My Incredible Globe-Crushing Hockey Odyssey. It is being published this month, October 2023, from Doubleday Canada and Penguin Random House in Canada and internationally, and by Triumph Books in the United States. Our guest today is a hockey buff, comedian, and writer whose material will use words like Gewürztraminer to make a punchline as sweet as the guitar licks that he plays to accompany himself. Comedy is just one way that Dave Hill has become a person who's earned enough fame and renown that he has the means and the needs to buy shirts with really complicated patterns. Among his many accomplishments in comedy and in entertainment, he hosts the Dave Hill Good Time Hour podcast. His band Valley Lodge has a song entitled Go that is used for the theme of John Oliver's Last Week Tonight program at HBO. I have to say that, even though not happy with HBO about canceling Winning Time, and not enough about that. Dave Hill has also made appearances on Netflix's The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, Adult Swim's Joe Pera Talks With You, and TBS's Full Frontal with Samantha Bee. He recently performed with Kevin McDonald of The Kids in the Hall, the greatest Canadian sketch show of all time. Sorry, not sorry, SCTV. Now, admittedly, Dave Hill was unknown to me before Neil and I were pitched on reading The Awesome Game, which, as I mentioned, is his fourth book of nonfiction. But his 2022 comedy special, The Pride of Cleveland, brought me somewhat up to speed on his fractured take on life. Now, it might have been a poor read of the room to watch it on my phone during the Sager family Thanksgiving dinner, but Dad, it was research. This book came right on time for me. I can out-cynic anyone on the planet when the NHL regular season rolls around in October. So it was timely to get a testimonial about one man's unbridled enthusiasm for hockey, because it reaffirms, what shines on in this sport that at the highest level often makes its devotees stick tap to Hannah Stewart, throw down in a mental wrestling match between I love this sport and I hate this league. Stick up for Pride Tape, everyone. Now, one trait of humorists from Ohio is that they seem to think Canada is this enchanted land on the other side of the Great Lakes. Well, I don't know if that's true of all humorists from Ohio. I can just think of PJ O'Rourke confessing to as much one time when he wrote the blurb for Bruce McCall's memoir. And Dave has confessed to it too because he loves hockey. So that's two. Two is a trait and a trend. In 2019 and 20, Dave actually had a podcast called So You're Canadian with Dave Hill. And his third book was a travel log called Parking the Moose, one American's epic quest to uncover his incredible Canadian roots. Dave had a grandfather from Ontario whose first name was Clarence. And so did I. So maybe we'll be best friends by the end of this. But his hockey thing is kind of maybe doesn't seem to, I don't know if, it jives with his comedy. And he sort of warned people, hey, I'm not, I haven't gone over the dark side. I haven't gone, full, jock. As he recently penned on his Substack to reassure fans, he's like, rest assured, I don't like sports either. I like sport, singular. And that sport is hockey, the greatest game of all time. And I've tried to write this book for everyone, regardless of their interest in hockey, so it'll be equally amazing for both hockey lovers and non-hockey lovers alike, end quote. Our man of the hour is living proof that hockey fans are not always made, they're often born. Over the course of The Awesome Game, readers are there with Dave as he seeks out the game in some pretty exotic locales like Nairobi, Kenya, Tampere, Finland, Katowice, Poland, and even Peterborough, Ontario. Hill actually took to hockey when it was being taken away from him and all the children of 1970s Cleveland. Now, when you think of Cleveland in sports, what generally comes to mind? probably not hockey, even though there have been pro teams of one kind or another there for almost a century, dating back to 1929. You know, you think of the long-running drama when LeBron James left the Cavaliers to go chase some rings in Miami. Then he came back to win one in Cleveland in 2016. You think of the NFL's Cleveland Browns and all of their factory of sadness. And you would probably think of the Cleveland Guardians baseball team and that franchise's historic futility that inspired the comedy Major League. But hockey in Cleveland has kind of been fraught, although it has made an appearance in 2 of our episodes with returning guests, which is, of course, our prompt to remember to check out sportslit.ca for all their past episodes and links to buy the books we've profiled. But back in 2018, season 2, episode 9, Dan Robson joined Neil Acharya and me to discuss his biography of the goaltending great Johnny Bower. Of course, everyone knows that he has the statue outside Scotiabank Arena in downtown Toronto. His name and number are up there in the rafters. Well, his name and number are also up in the rafters of the arena in Cleveland from his time when he starred with the Cleveland Barons, when they were probably capable of competing in the NHL as an American Hockey League team in the 40s and 50s. And in this book, Dave also shouts out Dennis Maruk, who was the Fu Manchu rockin' offensive linchpin of the short-lived NHL version of the Cleveland Barons. And if that sounds familiar to you as a longtime listener, if I go all the way back to the premiere of this podcast 6 years ago this week, actually, because it was Ken Reed of SportsNet who was, first over the wall and into the hot seat to talk to us about his bio of Dennis Maruk, the unforgettable story of hockey's forgotten 60-goal man. And now Dave Hill, who as a child caught a fleeting glimpse of that long-gone NHL team, which had awesome jerseys, by the way. Remember they had the map of Ohio for the arm numbers. He's there to complete a Cleveland hockey hat trick. So I feel ready, really ready. Really, really ready to chat with him. After the break, Mr. Dave Hill. Well, Dave, thank you for joining our show. Before we start, I got to tell you, we have some things in common. I think we both own a Quebec Nordiques jersey.
Oh, nice.
I'm wearing mine right now. I don't know how much of it you can see.
Well, I can't see it, but I'm glad to hear it. There we go. Yeah.
It's a WHA or a crest, actually, too.
I was going to say, yeah, that's what it looks like.
I think we both had a grandfather named Clarence from Ontario.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And both of us grew up near a Great Lake.
Really? Which one did you grow up near?
Well, Neil and I are from the Kingston, Ontario area. So like northeast shore of Lake Ontario. So, I'll pretend it's the Between Periods interview. To start off, talk about how you found the courage to have the battle and the compete to write a book about your hockey life.
I had to dig deep. No, it was, I've just been a lifelong fan of hockey and, growing up in Cleveland, that was sort of, there's me and like 2 other kids in my school who were into hockey, and it was a lonely way to grow up. But my grandfather was from Clinton, Ontario, and he got me into hockey. And in my adult life, most of the things that I've been interested in, I've been able to make a part of my career, comedy and music and writing and stuff. But hockey is kind of this thing that I've obviously been a huge fan of, but I thought like, oh, I'll write a book about it and get some money from my publisher to get me to be able to like do, thanks to them, I was able to, go to Finland, Poland, see some amazing games. I went all the way to Kenya, played hockey there, so it was really, I mean, I could have probably taken years to research this book and just kept going, but with deadlines, I had to stop. I mean, there's hockey all over the place. You could have been like, maybe there'll be part 2. Yeah, you could have got them to send you over to like watch the pro games in Japan. Like I know a guy who coached over there. I know someone who's been over there to do a story. So when did you start to realize that there's a book in this? How I've became a fan in unlikely circumstances, as you describe. You started to get into it right as the NHL team that was briefly in Cleveland leaves as a kid.
But when did you sort of realize, hey, I've got a book. I've really got a book here. I've got 250 pages in me of just about how devoted I've been to this sport all my life.
Yeah, I think it was just between what we were just talking about, and also the fact being frustrated as an American that hockey isn't more popular. I mean, I always love coming. I'm in Toronto right now, and I love coming to Canada just for many reasons. But the simple fact that you can just walk into a bar, and if the TV's on, it's got a hockey game, and it's in America, unless it's like a hockey bar, that's not going to happen. Like I live in New York, and the Rangers play one subway stop away. And if I want to go watch a game in my neighborhood, I have to go in somewhere where like I know the bartender and tell him he's got to change the channel, and I have to tell him what channel. It's just not, the hockey access isn't what it should be in America. And I think that's very sad.
Yeah, like how much did you have like this sort of like deep down like need to try to enlighten your your fellow Americans that hey, there's this sport that's been in your country for 100 years.
Yeah,
like the first NHL team in the States is having their centennial right now.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, the book is on one hand, it's for hockey fans, but it's also for people, that don't like hockey yet, or don't even like sports at all. And I'm kind of like trying to bring them over and be like, hey, you think you don't like sports, but here's an awesome sport that you should like. Because I'm kind of both, like I really am not as into sports really, except for hockey. Like if you hooked me up to a heart monitor and made me watch the Super Bowl, which you would have to do. You would have to force me to watch it, because I have really only, unless someone's like promising food and beer and stuff. That's the only thing that can lure me into watching a football game or a basketball game. I like baseball, soccer, tennis. Those are I can sit and enjoy those, but not on a level that really gets me whipped into a frenzy. And raising my voice,
Yeah,
I was in Poland, sitting with the hooligans and chanting along, even though I had no idea what I was saying, and it was just magical. I was practically in tears by the end of it, just because it was such an amazing experience.
Yeah, what you did? I didn't find that striking, because the rinks you visited in Canada were kind of like from the general region where I lived about 3/4 of my life. And you talk about somehow the crowds in Canada were really quiet. But what was it about those crowds in Poland and Finland where they were just nonstop, rah rah?
Yeah, they were really intense. Like I mean, like especially in Poland, it was like soccer hooligans. Like it was just bordering on violence at all times, and even between periods, I'd be going, to get a beer or whatever, and they would still be chanting. If you just by the sound of it, you would think, oh, it must be the final minute of a tie game in the third period. And this is like in between the first and second period intermissions. They were just so fired up. And Finland really fired up, not quite as much as Poland, but I think part of it owes to, maybe the culture of just, they get fired up over there. And also the arenas are smaller. No one plays in like a 20,000 seat arena. So it's just the intensity of having just fans crammed into a much smaller, in Poland, the arenas were, a couple thousand people, and in Finland was like 8,000 or something. So I think it lends itself to just more mayhem. And I, prior to going over there, I was perfectly satisfied with the level of enthusiasm at a Canadian game or even an American game. But I've been spoiled now. And now I'm like, well, I've got another problem on my hands, because I have to teach North Americans how to really get worked up.
Yeah, we are known for being quiet at hockey games, especially that slice of once you get like east of Toronto over to the Quebec border. I think we're the quietest hockey fans in Canada for some reason. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I'm from there.
Part of it is I have theories that maybe this is maybe not the strongest theory, but I stand by it, is that at games in North America, there's far too many, like it's too comfortable. There's too many food options. There's, too many, you can just kind of like watch it like you're watching TV, even though you're there at the game. But in Poland, they serve one kind of beer, and they serve water, and they serve sheet pizza, and that's it. So like you just, there's not, it's not a lot to distract yourself from just screaming.
Yeah. Now, take me back to you take your readers all the way back to when you were getting into the game. But what was going on in the life of young Dave Hill that just made the hockey rink seem like this special place for you to go into and maybe find learn about other parts of your personality?
I think, it was that, having a grandfather from Canada, we had no choice, but we were thrown, we were skating, by about 3 years old. And it was there that, go to the rink and you'd see what are these contraptions in the corner, these goals, and just as exposed to a world I didn't see anywhere else. No one was talking about it at grade school. It wasn't on TV really. And just I think maybe had an allure to it of, this is something for me. And as much as I wanted to be for everyone now, maybe that was part of the allure of like, I'm not really good at football or really interested in football at all. I pretended to really like football and then I started playing the guitar, and then I learned how to play Stairway to Heaven, and I was like, I don't need to pretend to like stuff. I just like what I like, and I like guitar and I like hockey, and then that was really I never looked back. So I'm still into guitar and hockey.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned talking to Stephen Brunt, he said, hockey can be almost oppressive. I imagine it was a little bit like that if you didn't like football in Cleveland in the 80s.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, because it used to be like you better be able to show up at school on Monday and talk about, the score, what the Browns did right and wrong. And I didn't know, and I didn't care. And I would just kind of parrot what the other kids were saying. And, but yeah, I think it's the flip side of that of like, and it's funny, like so many of my Canadian friends, because I tend to be friends with, other musicians and comedians and stuff. So when I talk with them about hockey, yeah, most of them are like, oh, I was the one kid who didn't play hockey in my school. So oddly, the Canadians I have the most in common with are like kind of the opposite of me in that way. Cause I'm like, oh, I was the one kid who played hockey. And they're like, I was the one kid who didn't play hockey. And those are my best Canadian friends, oddly enough.
And I admit I'm one of those people. Football's actually probably my favorite sport, even though I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan. So
Now, well, they have a cool logo, cool jersey. So I'll give you that.
That was what did it for me when I was like 12 or 13 years old. I started cheering. But anyway, now and one thing that struck me too with the writing, as a comedian, every performance is pretty much a road game, the equivalent of a road game for you. And you mentioned how there's, I made sure to write this down, exhilaration bordering on panic every time you walk into a new pro hockey arena. Like, how do those feelings bubble up? Why do you think you still get that even after all these years?
I think I'm just into, I love everything about it. And I want to check out the souvenirs. I want to see what food they have. And I want to, get inside and make sure I get to my seat before the puck is dropped, so they don't make me wait till I get to my seat. And all of it. I mean, I went to the Saddle Dome in Calgary a few years back, and it's home of the Caesar. The Caesar was invented there. I'm a very pro Caesar fan. And getting in there, and I get to the gift shop and they had a pair of socks with Lanny McDonald on them, and I was just like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And and so I literally got down on the ground, put on my Lanny McDonald socks, got a Caesar, went and watched the game. The scoreboard spits fire every time the Flames score, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of it. I love all of it. I mean, there's things I don't like. You know, I was complaining to someone earlier about, you know, I don't like that when they try to make hockey more appealing to children and grandparents and stuff by having like that, like when they're between every puck drop, they're like, okay, now let's do that. You know, they're having some thing and like there's a DJ at the game, and you know, I like a nice t-shirt cannon now and again, but there's just this thing now with NHL games where they're trying to like engage you every second. And I'm just like, the game itself is enough. Like, you're serving alcohol and you have a hockey game on. We're done. You know?
Yeah, you actually, to what extent does this seem familiar when you say that? Ken Dryden once wrote that hockey forces you to sit up and pay attention.
Yeah, 1000%, because it's really the only way to watch the game, because it moves so quickly. It's like baseball. You can sit there and miss big chunks of the game and you haven't missed anything. You know, in that way, I do like baseball, in that you can go to a game and you can check out of a game for 45 minutes and then you're like, oh, what's going on? Oh, it hasn't changed at all since I last paid attention to the game. And football, I would argue, is that way. Even though I respect that you would disagree as a football fan. But I mean, with football, you just have to wait until everyone starts screaming really loud and you're like, okay, I guess something's going on. But with hockey, like every second, it's like, just the nature of the game, the finesse and, chaos, control and chance and all, there's so many things when you see how a goal is scored. You can look at a goal and be like, oh, that was absolute teamwork and threading the needle and this and that. And then another goal is like, oh, that's a total garbage goal that just happened, just by sheer luck. There's a full range of the way things can happen. I feel like, maybe soccer's that is similar in that way, lacrosse or something. But I feel like there's just so many aspects to the game that I just don't. I think it's just not a part of other sports.
Yeah, we had Roy McGregor, famous Canadian columnist, on a few years ago, and I remember a novel he wrote called The Last Season. So its 40th anniversary just went by this year, and it was something like hockey has it all. It's got this. You have to be fast, you got to be strong, you have to be able to think quickly, and they're not sending the thought in from the sideline like they do in football. It was his line.
Yeah, exactly. It's just I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say it's a metaphor for life itself.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how on the comedy circuit, like how other comics react when you're talking about the fact that hockey is your like singular, sporting interest?
Well, it's been kind of fun recently, kind of having, in general, most comedians are like, yeah, I don't care, Dave. But I had a really great conversation with Phil Hanley. I don't know if you know Phil, but he's a hilarious comedian, and he lives in New York, but he's from Oshawa, which I didn't realize. But I saw him recently, and we were chatting, and he's like, we really were like totally nerding out over hockey, and I was so excited to learn that he was from Oshawa, because that's like, as with many Canadian towns, just idyllic to me. Any team with like, a minor league team or like somewhere, where an NHL grade is from is just, I'm super jealous. I'm like, oh man, you come from a magical place, So hopefully more hockey fans will come out of the woodwork with my comedian buddies.
Yeah, and I always think of Bill Burr just because he put hockey in his animated comedy series F is for Family. So
Mm-hmm.
now we'll countenance a reference to Oshawa here. I mean, that's a division rival of Neil and I's hometown Ontario Hockey League team, the Kingston
Yeah.
Frontenacs. So it's
Oh,
usually
yeah.
usually Oshawa was the team always beating them out in the playoffs.
I
You know.
saw Kingston. I saw Kingston play the Peterborough Petes.
Yes, Shane Wright was playing too, right? You watched
Yeah,
him
yeah.
play.
He was playing like what? He was the number one. Was he the number one draft pick?
He ended up going number 4 to the Seattle Kraken.
Number 4. I guess at the time he was like predicted to be the number one at the time at the game.
Yeah, correct.
But he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
Yeah, Neil and I were actually like kids in Kingston when they brought back like the Frontenac's name in the late '80s. It's actually kind of funny. They were the Kingston Canadians when we were kids.
I think Frontenac's is cool. I like I can't remember, only just out of sleep deprivation, what a Frontenac is. But it's something occurring in nature, right?
I think it's no, I think he was way back when he was like one of the French like explorers, colonial.
Oh, it's a person.
Yeah, and then it's Kingston is in Frontenac County, so and there's a Frontenac secondary school and so forth. But yeah, when
my God, all these things are coming up. Yeah, Frontenac secondary, Frontenac Club.
It's all over.
Oh my God! Yeah, this is a wormhole. Yeah, Louis Dubois de Frontenac. Would he be the guy?
That's the guy. Yeah.
Well, good for him.
Yeah, French explorer, and that was a name. It was a minor league team, and like it was a name that was kind of always around and in and out of circulation. And then there was a phase where they were the Kingston Canadians with the English spelling and a K where the H would go in the Montreal logo, and then there was 1 year when they were the Kingston Raiders, and that owner quickly came and went, and then we were
as well. He should have, with that name. Come on.
Now if we can, the black and silver uniforms and
they did it. They really went all the way.
Yeah, and they ended up selling the gear to like a junior C team in the next town over, and they're still the Raiders today. So it's kind of
it all worked out.
Kind of a happy ending if you're now, Dave. I've sort of come to a point where. One place where you found a lot of highly concentrated energy directed to hockey was in Nairobi, Kenya. You journeyed about 12,000 kilometers to play with the Kenya Ice Lions. And we're hoping you could read a selection here. And just to set it up, you made some fast friends playing roller hockey with some guys named Ali and Trevor. I guess anywhere you go in the world to play pickup hockey, there's always going to be at least one Trevor. So we were hoping you could read this and relate to our audience just how much passion there was in this group of people playing hockey in Kenya.
I will. Here we go. Among the hazards of playing roller hockey in a parking lot in Kenya on a Sunday afternoon are, of course, potholes, a large drainage ditch that manages to swallow the ball every few minutes, an ice cream man who has no hang-ups whatsoever about pushing his cart right through the middle of play, and perhaps most concerning, given that I was finally wearing a brand new Kenya Ice Lions jersey on my back, what appeared to be hawks that circled above us almost constantly as we played. They like to poop on us, Trevor warned me. Indeed, most of the area had already been spackled with bird droppings. Still, I wasn't going to let that stop me from giving it my all out there that day. So, after catching my breath, I headed out for another shift. It didn't go much better, though I did make a mental note to at least try to look like I wasn't about to keel over whenever Ali pointed his camera at me. As the afternoon wore on, my breaks in between shifts became longer and longer, and I marveled at how skilled the Ice Lions players were at the sport. Most of them had only started playing a few short years earlier. I would love for there to one day be someone from Nairobi playing in the NHL, Ali told me as I sat guzzling water in between shifts. Well, I'll do my best to share everything I know about the sport with you guys so that one day that might happen, I told him as I tripped over my own stick and practically fell on my face while trying to stand up a moment later. I assumed we played roller hockey for a couple hours, tops, but the Ice Lions showed no signs whatsoever of slowing down when 5 p.m. rolled around. How long do you guys normally play? I asked Benja, trying to sound more curious than tired. Until we can't see the ball anymore, he told me before peeling off on the skates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that just say about the sport that, people, on the other side of the world are that passionate about, taking it up and just going their own way on their form of fun and recreation.
It was pretty amazing. And maybe if I had shown up to play, or maybe if I were 20, 30 years younger, I was like literally, some of these guys were like 15 years old, some like literally 30 years older, more than some of these guys. And just, I couldn't believe, like, cause you think like hockey, like no one really plays more than 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe if they're just going in crazy, but 5 hours. Oh, these guys. And as I think I talk about earlier in the book, I was going out at night with these guys and trying to keep up with guys in their 20s, drinking beer and stuff every night. So I was like, in addition to being much older, I was quite hungover when this was happening as well. So but I was had I not flown all that way, I probably would have just gone back to my hotel after like a half an hour because I was really hurting. But I stayed with it and played the whole time. It was awesome, I have to say. But normally they play on the ice, but their rink was closed at the time, and it opened back up like 2 weeks later. So they were playing roller hockey when I went there.
Yeah,
and they beat on me pretty badly. So I'm determined to go back and play on the ice with them when I feel like I can really even the score.
Yeah, and just how much did that experience, what they showed and taught you that day? How much did it stay with you when you were writing the book? Like, and you're just saying, I gotta like capture the spirit of the thing, so to speak.
I mean, it was awesome, and it was really as I said, at least in the book, if not in my song about the book, it's just that it was great to connect with people over this love of hockey. People like in the other side of the world, completely different background, and where they're geeking out about the same thing. It was pretty cool, to as hard as it was to find kids to connect with about hockey as a kid growing up in Cleveland, to then be in Kenya of all places and just be with guys who are as psyched about hockey as I am. It was really awesome, and it was so cool to see like how good they were, because I really was like, I'll school these guys, no problem. And oh my gosh, I was wrong. I think like the Hawks were flying overhead, and I think they were just waiting for me to drop so they could just start gnawing on my carcass. But fortunately, I made it out alive.
Yeah. I guess to what extent? I mean, is that just proving, I guess, that the world gets a little smaller every day as we find out we have a lot more in common than we might think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was wild to hear about, like, Ali, who's kind of the elder statesman of the team, because he's like in his early 40s, and a bit older than the other players. He said he found out about hockey. I'm like, how did you even learn about it? And he's like, I got an issue of The Source, the hip hop magazine. And when he was younger, and there's a picture of hockey, and he was like, what is this? And then he later saw hockey on TV or however he was watching it. And he said he couldn't even understand like how the players were moving. Like he couldn't wrap his head around skating even. So to be like that complete, like have no background for any of it, and then just be like, whoa, to come from that far away from the game and then end up like, having it be your thing. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. And I guess just jumping back across the Atlantic Ocean, In the book, you sought out opinions of people in the game, such as Brian Trottier, who came on with us last year to talk about his autobiography. And what did
Oh,
you sort of,
nice.
what did you sort of, in what ways did you have your eyes opened about just things that have held the NHL back from being, firmly, the third or fourth most popular league in North America? In the
Yeah, I
US,
mean,
more specifically, I guess.
I think the reasons are kind of what ended up being like kind of like the reasons you might guess. I guess I was hoping to discover some other reason that I could maybe solve just on myself. Maybe like, oh, maybe we just need to put stickers up around town and turn people onto hockey more. Like I was hoping there would be some easy fix, but I think there's just the fact that that the states is, with the exception of like Minnesota and areas around there, there's not many places that can we don't grow up being able to just walk outside and there's an outdoor rink right down the street or a frozen pond, and so there's not, those opportunities don't abound like they do in Canada, or at least probably less and less as the whole planet heats up, but certainly way more so than America. And then just the financial realities of, it's expensive to get all those pads and all that. But yeah, I was hoping there was something like, oh, we just need to make, hang some flyers up, right? Some sort of grassroots thing we can do to turn people. But I guess I would say that my book is maybe the one man grassroots. Well, not one man. I have a publisher and all these things, getting the word out there about my book. But
four or five people, yeah.
Yeah, 4 or 5 people that, but I'm hoping, with the book to, celebrate hockey. It's my love letter to hockey, but it's also, I'm hoping that people can get into it, and maybe find even, I say just the baby steps of it is, if you don't understand the game or don't yet love the game, at the very least you can sit down in front of a game and, have a beer or a hot chocolate or whatever your beverage of choice is. And, and then from there you start going like, hey, what's offsides? What's icing? And then, next thing, so my girlfriend was completely, wasn't into hockey at all. And she now loves it and swears like a sailor.
Nice.
When, we'll watch games at home, and I'm more, as you might guess, I'm more mild-mannered type. As much as I want people to scream and go crazy, I myself, I'm a bit more low-key. And but my girlfriend will scream and just profanity like you wouldn't believe. And I have to ask her, when we're at home, I'm like, you can't do that, because anyone that hears this is going to think we're having a horrible domestic dispute. The way she swears. Especially if like she hates the Bruins for some reason, for reason even she can't quite articulate. She just hates the city of Boston, even though we've had
that.
It's true. It's an easy. I've had many lovely times in Boston.
Oh, I know.
For whatever reason, and I think she has too, but for whatever reason, she's just like, if Boston's playing, I won't tell you what she says, but it's very, it's not nice.
I can remember one year where I have a friend who works for an NHL team, and I think it was 2019. The Bruins were up 3-2 in the final, and he just emailed me, goes, let's go to a movie because I want my life to be a Boston free zone, just in case the Bruins win the cup tonight. Of course, which they didn't. The St. Louis Blues came back. As the Canadian, here, I maybe I'll bounce a couple theories off about hockey and what's kept it from being, I guess, a vernacular sport in the States. Americans tend to really build their rooting interest through their local high school, the state university. Is that maybe what it is
yeah, I think that's a possibility, and that's that's something I've also never understood, like why of all things, like I don't have disdain for anywhere I went to school, but when I graduated, I'm like, I'm done with that. That's It's not my life anymore. So I'm not sitting there rooting for. Well, having said that, though, I kind of have to eat my words, because I did go back and play with my former high school team, like the current players. And then I went to a game and I found myself right back in it, where I was just like cheering for them and wanting them to win. And so I guess but yeah, it is weird to me that in America, people that get obsessed about a college football team, and often a school that they didn't even go to that school. It's just something I don't understand, and especially being from Ohio, where you have people obsessed with Ohio State football or Michigan football, whichever. I don't even know. There's two teams there. I can't relate. I can't relate to that instinct at all.
I'm sure Neil is chuckling because he knows how I used to be like that with our hometown university, Canadian university football team. And one day he just told me, you were getting mad about future lawyers playing future accountants. And I'm like, yeah, good point.
Oh, that's pretty cold, but I have to say, Neil's not wrong.
Yeah, he is not wrong. I did want to ask too that there's going to be a new women's league starting up. It's going to start playing in January. 6 teams, 3 Canadian, 3 US. How interested are you in being an ally and a supporter of the professional women's hockey league when it gets going?
Oh, 1000%. I mean, in the book, I talked to Ven Lahovey, who is coach of Metropolitan Riveters of the, I guess, that was like the last iteration of women's hockey, professional hockey. I'm all for it. I think it's something for everyone, obviously. And also, as much as I love the game, I'm excited to, I just like good hockey. Like, whoever's playing it, I'm psyched as I'm in. I'm all in. So I'm glad to hear that there will be a new league up and running. And I think it's awesome. And just a way to hopefully inspire more people to get into the game. Because it's for everybody as well. It should be. So
I know, yeah, and I've spoken on this on past episodes. My sister Trina she's a much more enthusiastic hockey player than my brother and I ever were, and still plays. Gets out and plays goal in her 40s. So now, I was interested. I listened to the maybe talk. I did want. It's like, we got Dave Hill here. He's a comedian. I got to ask him comedy questions too. Because I am I am a comedy nerd. I was even at a comedy show in Toronto last night. Randy Feltface was at the Great Hall. So,
well, nice.
Yeah, some great. The opening act had a joke about podcasters too. So, and we were just like, "Yep, you owned us on that one." I just wondered what sort of was behind the idea a few years ago when you did that podcast. So You're Canadian with Dave Hill. I listened to I really liked it.
Thank you. That was, my last book was about exploring my Canadian roots, Parking the Moose, and was sort of the jumping off point for that was, as I mentioned, my grandfather is from Canada, and growing up, in America, as I'm sure you've heard, we're taught from a very early age that America is the greatest country by leaps and bounds, better than everywhere else, and we have it so good, and no one could possibly live anywhere else. Why would they do that? But my grandfather, being from Canada, was, at Sunday dinners was always just like, Canada is the greatest country in the world. So I always grew up thinking, like, they're telling us how great America is, but I know better. Canada is the greatest country. And then, he died when I was 12, and I didn't really have a source of Canadian leadership in my life, unless you count, my hockey heroes, which I guess you should. But so when that book came out, I was, I guess I didn't want my Canadian, my exploration of Canada to end. So I was like, I'm going to do a podcast where I only talk to Canadian people, and yeah, it was fun to do, and I talked to a lot of great people, and one of whom, Brent Butt, he was on the show, and I finally met him in person the other night. We were both at Calgary Word Fest, a
nice.
great book festival, and we had never met in person, and we just ran into each other in the hotel lobby, and we were like, let's go get some beers. So we hung out, and so yeah, that was great. But yeah, and it was just a matter of just getting too busy to maintain it, and but who knows? Maybe I'll resurrect it, because there are more Canadians.
Yeah, there's 40. We finally hit 40 million in population last year.
Oh my gosh, that's quite a jump.
It took us a while.
Wow, I didn't. Wow, that's quite a leap.
Yeah, we're sure.
You guys have been. I don't want to speculate on what's been going on, but I think we all know what's been going on. Canadian sex.
Yeah.
Canadian intercourse.
We had a guy at the comedy show last night from Ohio who said he wrote erotica, so in the front row, and he had driven up from Ohio for this show. So.
Oh wow, where was the show?
It was the Great Hall on Queen Street West. So.
Oh, nice
old venue. That was for Randy Feltface, and I'm blanking on the opening act he had, who made the joke about made some great jokes, made fun of my hometown. So that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like I've skipped over like the whole "Who is Dave Hill" part. Like I read an interview where you sort of said comedy is an accidental career, but I mean, nothing's a total accident. How did it all come together where you're this guy who's doing your routine, and you're also playing guitar at the same time? Like where'd you say, hey, I can do this?
But yeah, that kind of came, because I was always a musician, and playing in bands since I was a teenager, and I kind of drifted into journalism, and from that I started writing for television. But with playing in bands, I always enjoyed talking in between songs almost more than playing the songs, and then with journalism, I really didn't care about the story. I just wanted to get a couple jokes in there, and then kind of through those things, I wound up writing for television, and then my friend Tony Carnevale asked me to he had a show in the back room of a bar in New York, and and asked me to do it, and so I started performing, and it grew from there. But I kept the music separate for a long time, and just because I wasn't sure, I was like, oh, how do I incorporate music in a way that feels good to me? Because I wasn't really into the people just kind of strumming and rhiming stuff with fart, which is not what everyone was doing, but it was just a lot of what I was seeing. And but then there's some amazing people doing Tenacious D, Flight of the Conchords, who were doing amazing mixes, combining music and comedy. And then I started doing some shows where there'd be like a house band, and I'd bring my guitar, and I would just kind of do my stand up while playing guitar solos in between. And then that kind of became like oh, this is kind of what I like doing is I mean, on a lazy level, it's just nice to leave the house once instead of twice. Just be like, rather than going to do a stand-up set and then going playing with my band, I just go out and I just do them kind of both simultaneously. Like I just did this tour with Tenacious D, and so during their set, their drummer and bass player John and Scott would come out and join me, and it was just a blast to be able to just tell jokes. And then also, and I shouldn't even be telling you this, but when you play guitar solos and stuff during your stand-up set, you only need half as many jokes. It's because a 10-minute set is a 20-minute set, and so on, as long as you rip guitar solos in between. And sort of another nice, a nice byproduct of it is like that, in sort of recent years, guitar companies, guitar gear companies are generous and that will give me stuff, which my inner 15-year-old is completely freaking out that anyone would give me free guitar equipment. So I'm just it's really working out.
Is Guitar Center on that list of swag bestowers?
No.
I'm
No.
sorry. I had to ask because
no, mostly the direct from the manufacturers, and obviously I do wind up in Guitar Center from time to time, schooling people while I'm there, and but yeah, like I'm a big fan of the small boutique builders and people just doing cool stuff, one person or just a handful of people doing making cool stuff, like Earthquaker devices, Illuminati guitars, downable guitars, and on. I mean, I could go on and on.
Yeah, and way back, like when you were young, what comedians and I guess what musicians really influenced just how you looked at the world and how you sort of eventually crafted your comedy?
I mean, for the comedians, I always loved and still do just people that just seemed insane to me, like I even now, like the comedians that I really respond to, when I see especially new people, I think a big thing with comedy is people saying like relatable things, like you're going out, oh, this guy's talking about something that I've experienced, or he's talking about things with relationships. I know what that's like, and there's people that do that amazingly well. But I gravitate more towards people that are saying stuff that I'm like, I have never thought about that before. And this is a perspective I've just never seen. So when I grew up, like guys like Bobcat Goldthwait, Pee Wee Herman, Chris Elliott, Andy Kaufman, those kind of people were really, when I was, a kid, were people that just like, because you would see them and you'd get the sense that they were what you were seeing them. I knew it was an act, but I'd be like, it seems like they would just be at home doing this, even when they're all alone. Like they just seemed insane to me. And those are the people that I always love the most. And, when growing up, and, and then like Letterman, of course. And there's so many. And now, like, if we get into people, there's so many, Janine Garofalo, one of my all-time favorites, and a dear friend, which is crazy to think, someone that's such an inspiration as someone who would actually talk to me is amazing. And actually, a lot of the people I mentioned, I've since become friendly with, which is cool. Not Letterman, but a couple of them.
I was going to say, as soon as you brought up Chris Elliott and Andy Kaufman, I was thinking, you think timeline was, Dave would have been like, you would have just been hitting your teens when Dave had Late Night and they were doing their stuff on there.
Yeah. And that was, obviously when I saw, they both just seemed like, I was like, how did they even get out here? Because they just seemed crazy to me, and that was always like super inspiring. Not even a way where I was like, I'm going to do this one day, because I don't think I was conscious of it. Maybe I was like, oh, this would be fun. But just seeing those guys and just almost just being like, not to sound like a little too sentimental about it, but like I felt like not alone, like Pee Wee Herman and Chris Elliott. I was just like, oh, there's other weirdos out there, who who were like, because you knew they were different, and I know I was made to feel different growing up. I didn't really fit in with anyone. I never felt like really part of any one group of people growing up, so when you see those guys some of the other people I mentioned, you're like, oh, like I'm not alone. And seeing those guys, you know, and Bobcat, oh, just, you know, you kind of go like, I would be like, they're doing this for me and my friends in our basement, you know, even though they're on national television and millions of people are seeing them, you know, when you're a kid, you go like, this is just for me. And me and my 3 or 4 friends are the only ones who really understand what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you know, Kids in the Hall, all those guys.
Oh yeah. When you were talking about that, I'm thinking, you know, you're bringing up me being 12 and watching the Kids in the Hall on the CBC.
Yeah, and you know, there's another. I mean, I think I've met. You know,
You worked with Kevin McDonald recently.
yeah, we just did a musical together, and we're gonna do. He wrote this amazing, hilarious musical, Superstar, and was kind enough to ask me to be in the New York production of it that he did, and so I'm gonna be part of the LA shows when he does that, and then we're talking about, you know, hopefully doing some other stuff together. So it's, you know, it's amazing to be friends and, you know, be able to do stuff with people that you've admired so much. It's so cool.
Yeah, how does that compare with meeting some of your hockey heroes, like whether it's an all-time immortal or a guy who had a solid career like Len Frigg?
Well, it's different because, you know, with the comedians, most comedians I'm meeting them like through work, you know, through like we're doing stuff together, like whether we meet at a festival or just wind up on a show together somehow. Like, so in most cases, you know, they're kind of aware that they know that I'm a comedian too. So, you know, there's some like sort of, and everyone I've mentioned they're all so kind. And so they treat me like a peer, you know, they're not like, you know, I'm not just some guy that's like, hello, I love you. Even not that I'm saying everyone does that, but that's what I would do. But you know, when I've met some, you know, like Len Frigg, Brian Trache, Slava Fetisov, you know, I'm not a peer by any stretch with those guys, and I completely go back to, I don't know if I said this already, but like if you listen to the recordings of me talking, the interviews, I sound like I'm 12 years old because I'm terrified, and I'm just like, I sound like Chris Farley talking to Paul McCartney. You know, like I'm just like sound like an idiot. Which is not to say I don't sound like an idiot now. I to some people I might, but I think if you heard these recordings, virtually anyone would be like, that guy sounds like an idiot, because I'm just like, that was so cool. You played for the Islanders and won the Stanley Cup. You know,
that was the exact same reference that popped in my head when I was writing an intro just to explain, you know, your background, because I was just like, wow, you know, he knows John Hodgman and he knows Kristen Shaw, you know, the voice of, you know, one of the Belcher kids on Bob's Burgers. So we're on the same page there, I think, Dave.
yeah, and they're, you know, I'm friends with them as well. I mean, like, you know, I knew them from like when I was just starting out, and they're both hilarious, delightful people. Just to let you know, they're every bit as delightful as you would hope.
That's amazing. I do have one more deep question, and then I thought we'd do a little lightning round, and then let you sort of, because I know you've had a long day doing a media junket here in the wild, enchanted land of Toronto. I just wondered, there's always like, you know, performance anxiety. How does that differ between when you're performing live and when you're releasing a book that you've been working on for, you know, a couple of years likely?
Well, it's different, you know, performing live, you know, live comedy / music or whatever. For me, there's a dread to it, because I'm just like, in many ways, I'm totally an introvert, and I have no desire to go on stage in front of people ever. but I just know when it's happening. When I walk out on stage, I'll be glad that it's happening, and I'll be completely, in that moment. And I know, so that's why I do it, because I know that I'm going to be psyched when it's happening. Sometimes I'm not very psyched, if it's not going well or for whatever reason, but generally I have a really good time doing that. So there's that, the immediacy of it, and, being present, not to use all the cliches and that, but then with writing a book, you're more doing this thing, and you're kind of more baking a plate of brownies and setting it out for people, and you go, here, I hope you like these brownies. And then you walk away, and it's kind of nice, because you're kind of, obviously my hope is that people will read the book and enjoy the book and not leave nasty reviews on, the various websites. And but it's also, there's this thing, well, it's done, and I've done all I can do. I've tried my best, and that's that. Like, I can't go back into the book and rewrite it at this point. Whereas, with comedy and stuff, like, I'll do a set, and then I'll be like, oh, I'm going to change this word next time, and you can do that forever. You can constantly evolve it until, maybe you've done it on a special, and at that point it's cooked, and you can't really go back, or maybe you can. I don't know. You can just kind of keep doing. I mean, you can do whatever you want, really, in terms of live performance, for better or for worse.
Okay, and I'm just going to remind people again, the book is this book by Dave Hill is The Awesome Game, my globe-crushing hockey odyssey, I believe. I've got the whole title, and it's out in stores this week and next week. It's kind of a staggered release in Canada and the US, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, worldwide, except for the US, it's out this week, and then next week it comes out in the US. Delayed by a week there, only because we weren't sure if Americans could handle it. We wanted to, just kind of give them a week to let their systems adjust accordingly, and then be like, here you go, The Awesome Game, the best hockey book ever, maybe the best book. I hate to be bombastic, but it might be, let's see, I don't know, can't really think of any books that can stack up to it, except for the other books I've written, but now I just sound like a jerk. I'm just really trying to use hyperbole because I want people to read this book.
Nice. Are you ready to do some lightning round?
Yeah, bring it on.
Okay. Got 5 bullet pointed questions that I wrote in a Google Doc. So you pretend you're the NHL commissioner. I mean, maybe you will be someday. I mean, Gary Bettman's going to retire. He's going to retire someday.
That's the hope. That's my end game.
Yeah. What city is getting the next expansion team?
Well, I don't know if this counts because they've already had a team, but I would love to see. Well, no, the next city, without question, is Cleveland. Of course, gets the next team. But that having been said, I would love to see the Quebec Nordiques come back.
Evidently, I would too, since I'm wearing the jersey.
Yeah, it's the best jersey, and I would love to see that. But Cleveland, I mean, really, really, I mean, that might be all that might be all it would take for me to move back to Cleveland. If they got an NHL team, then I'd be like, okay, Cleveland's favorite son, or maybe second, third, top 50 favorite son is coming home.
All right. Canadian sketch comedy shows, Kids in the Hall or SCTV?
Oh gosh, that's really what is that? Is it? I don't know if it's a Sophie's Choice or not, but it's impossible because they're both so amazing. But I'm gonna go Kids in the Hall on this one, just for being weirder, and because I'm friends with Kevin and Dave.
Okay, there you go.
So my loyalties, but both. I mean, they're both so good, and even like the most recent Kids in the Hall, the season that they did for Amazon, is amazing. They're only getting better, which is really amazing to be just like just getting funnier.
Now, I know you're a fan of the show. Who's your favorite character on Letterkenny?
I gotta go. I mean, I like the hockey players, but I got probably Wayne, but Miss Katie, I love her. I mean, for many reasons going beyond she's not hard to fall in love with, but sometimes I don't know, that now I'm just going down a whole Miss Katie. I mean, I just love her so much. But Wayne, and then Riley and Jonesy, I have to say. No, gosh, again, sleep deprivation, but Pastor Glenn.
Yes. Okay. Nice.
I gotta go. I have to go. I'm gonna take all back everything I just said, and I would say Pastor Glenn in those first few, because when he was on, he's not on very often anymore in the show. So the early Pastor Glenn stuff was so amazing, and just like there was an episode where he's seemingly working at every restaurant that Wayne shows up at. That show, I gotta say, like, is one of my. I think it's just an amazing show, and I love Shoresy as well. And I'm not to brag, but my friend Jim at the dog park near my house in Cleveland, not in Cleveland, in New York rather, where I live. He was the first person I ever heard talk about Letterkenny, and he was always telling me to watch it. And then I was like, yeah. And then he kept mentioning it so often that I was like, I have to watch this show, so he'll shut up. And then I put it on, and within 10 seconds, I was like, I'm in. Anyway, I'm sorry. You said lightning round, and I'm rambling. Let's keep going.
Yeah, it's rambling. It's a slow rumble. Favorite Canadian food?
I gotta go poutine on that one, because I'm off pea-meal bacon. I just had cheesies for the first time this past weekend. Nice. Quality. But I think I gotta go poutine on that one, because you truly, even though, I've heard it said you can't get good poutine outside of Quebec or curd country, as my friend Niels from Kemptville calls it, because he includes parts of Ontario. But I eat it pretty much anywhere in Canada, but you truly cannot get good poutine in America. Some Americans will say you can, but you can't. I've tried.
No, not in the States, but we're obliged to stick up for like Eastern Ontario, being its poutine is competitive.
It is. I have to agree. Yeah, with that little, the patch of land between Quebec and Ottawa.
Yeah, that right around there. Yeah, and just sort of lastly, what arena did you wish you had gotten to before writing this book? Anywhere, could be anywhere.
I mean, if I could go back in time, I wish I could have gone to, the old Montreal Forum, the old Maple Leaf Garden, gardens. Those would be the big ones. And it would have been, I really would have liked to have gone to Russia to see a KHL game, but now I think that is not something that will happen in my lifetime, most likely, given the current state of that country and all. Obviously, you know what I mean.
Oh yes, of course. Well, I really appreciate this, Dave. Of course, the book, I actually clipped the title there the last time I mentioned it. It is The Awesome Game, My Incredible Globe-Crushing Hockey Odyssey, and it's being published on October 17th and 24th, Canada, internationally, the U.S. Dave, this has been awesome. Good luck with everything, and I Hope
Thank you.
keep seeing your your comedy online. People can follow you at Mr. Dave Hill, I guess, on all social media platforms.
Yeah, Mr. Dave Hill. Yeah, on all the TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, whatever. And then I don't know if you guys. I'm doing a show here in Toronto on Thursday, the 19th, at the Monarch with Nick Flanagan, Tim Gilbert, and Only God Forgives. So,
oh, nice.
If you want to come, just let me know. I'm happy to leave you tickets. Though there's no pressure to attend. Though I would be furious if you. At the same time, I'll be furious if you don't.
Oh, that's quite a conundrum.
It's a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.